Hello everybody, it's a Saturday morning and I'm sitting here with this raspberry roll that I've picked up from the Provo Bakery. As it relates to raspberry stuff, the best thing to do in town is to go over to Shirley's Bakery. That is like one of the best things you'll ever have in your life, are their rolls. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you today about the Raspberry Pi and the end result of what you're supposed to get done for class in your next class session. Right here, what you're seeing is my Mac, which is remoted into the desktop of my Raspberry Pi. So whether I'm on campus or whether I'm at home, wherever I am in the world, I can just open up a little program called VNC Viewer, and it will open up the desktop of my Raspberry Pi. And then furthermore, I can open up this little terminal window on my Raspberry Pi, and it's a full Linux machine that I can work with. I can install web servers, anything I want on here. Okay, so in addition to this Raspberry Pi being available to me for me to connect to from anywhere in the world, follow me on downstairs to where I have it plugged in. As a Saturday morning, we have kids watching cartoons, like any proper household. All right. Over here is my Google Fiber device, and right next to it I have my Raspberry Pi. Notice that it has no monitor or keyboard connected to it right now, or mouse. And actually this little thing right here is also optional. Really all we need after everything is set up is just your power and your Raspberry Pi. So this is your end goal, is to be able to just plug this in somewhere at home, and then once it's configured, you'll be able to connect to it from anywhere in the world. The things that you will find in my written tutorial and in the videos will help you get set up to be able to do this. And that is what you need to do so that we're able to do the activities we're going to do for the rest of the semester. All right, I'm here with my friend Jocelyn Bunderson, and we are about to get started on our Raspberry Pi setup. I'm over here at station number 30 in the lab, and she has in her hand an adapter for a micro SD card. She's putting her micro SD card into there, and she is now going to put it into the computer, into a slot, whichever one it fits into.
Is it the other way?
It'll be one of the ways. And you put it in there, and it should show up as a drive on here somewhere. There it was. It showed up. Over here, let us look at the downloads folder. From the Raspberry Pi this is the Raspberry Pi website. There's a place where you can click on downloads, and you can download a zip file called Noobs. I downloaded it into downloads over here, and then I unzipped it. Down here is that folder. I'm going to take all of that content, and I'm going to say copy, and then I'm going to find that little thing that we just plugged in, which is maybe this one. I hope it's this one. It's probably that one. Anyway, I'm going to hit paste. And once that's done copying over, all she has to do is take that little mini SD card out of its adapter, put it into the Raspberry Pi, and boot it up while it's attached to a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse, and she's ready to start configuring her device. Okay, we have just completed copying over the contents of that zip file over to this flash disk, this micro SD card. So before we pull it out now, I just want to right-click on there, and I want to click eject, because that's always the nice way to pull things out rather than just brute force. Okay, now that it's done, we're ready to move on to the next step. All right, we're on to our next step. We have our micro SD card ready to go. Would you mind flipping this over and inserting your newly, I wouldn't say formatted, but it's got the stuff on it. So flip it over on the bottom side, and your SD card goes in right there. We'll put it in there. There we go. It is ready to go. You now have basically an operating system that's ready to be installed, that's sitting on that card. Okay, so some other things we need to do are connect a HDMI cable from the monitor over into your Raspberry Pi. So there will be a port, the fat port, the regular port size over there,
And then we have our micro on this side. So go ahead and plug that into either of these. This device supports dual 4K output. So for a cheap little computer, it's amazing what it can do. I think you got it right the first time, but you can try both. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit stiff the first time we do it. Okay, we also need a keyboard and mouse plugged in. So go ahead and plug in a keyboard and mouse. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna open up your power supply box. It's just a 5-volt power adapter with the USB-C plug on it. Nothing special. A lot of your kits come with these little heat dispersion things that you can put onto the chips that are on your board. Some of them also come with cases, so you would put on a heat disperser and you would put it into a case, but they run just fine without it. You don't have to. If you run some heavy software, then they start to get a little hotter. Okay, so we've got, we've got the keyboard and mouse both on there. Great. Here is our power. Don't plug it in too hard. And now we need to find some place to plug it in.
Here's a plug right here.
Okay, so we will plug it in over here. All right, the little blinky lights turn on. And in a perfect world, we would be seeing something on this monitor. I'm not sure why we are not. So why don't we stop for a second while we debug what's going on with our connection to the monitor. Awesome. So what's supposed to happen is when you boot this thing for the first time, you'll see a brief rainbow color square that comes up, and the next thing that happens is you get a choice of which operating system on the Noobs install you want. So just go ahead and select the first one, which is Raspbian, and then install.
English UK.
And click yes. Oh, well, it's all right. Okay, it's going to do this for a long while, so let's go ahead and stop while it's installing. Okay, this one is newly installed, and so go ahead and click OK. And usually I think after we click OK, it like reboots or something.
It's frozen, so.
Well, that's not convenient.
This is fun.
Well, just unplug the power and replug. Oh, wait. Did I speak too soon? Okay, so this is going to be the normal boot screen. So I'm glad that we were patient, because I was seriously about to unplug that thing. So this is going to be our first time look at a booted screen. So there it is. It's going to ask you some questions. It says welcome. Go ahead and hit next. Go ahead and change your time zone. Yeah, United States, time zone, Denver.
Something you could try is...
And just go ahead and hit next. You don't have to do the other stuff. And then you can put in a secure password, or you could update it later. Which would you prefer? Right now, the password is Raspberry.
Okay.
For now, so if you just remember that, you can come back and change it. That's available under the Start menu. Setup screen, it just says ask you, does this screen have a black border around it? Yes, it does. So you could go ahead and click that checkbox and then click next. Now it's going to look for networks. Here on campus, while we're setting this up, you would go, once it comes up, you will select BYU Wi-Fi, next, and it will look like it is connected, but it is not authenticated, so you won't be able to get out to the web.
Okay.
So we hit, now it's going to ask if you want to update software. You're not actually on the web yet, so we'll just say skip for now. You can do that anytime. Now this says restart, so go ahead and restart. All right, we have our same 30-second boot process. by the way, there are other little mini microcontroller computers and things like that that you can buy. This one is more of a full-fledged computer, and although 30-second boot time seems pretty fast, if we do some of the other things like the Arduinos and other microcontrollers, real microcontrollers, when you push your code onto those devices, they are instant on, as opposed to having a boot time of 30 seconds or something like that. So the second they have other types of devices, the second they have power, they're running the code that's on there. This one has a little bit of boot time. This one's kind of intermediate from your regular computer that's not configurable and the configurable world of electronics controlled through code. All right, it's going to happen anytime now. Well, while it's busy thinking, other people around are doing the same thing. They are installing. We're getting it figured out. All right, looks like it's surprisingly it's booting a couple times there. I wonder why. All right, you are now in. One of the next things that you'll want to do is, even though so this little icon over here tells you what network you are connected to, if you mouse over it right now, it can show you, oops, yeah, it'll show you, it'll say BYU Wi-Fi, and then if you click back off of it again and then just hover this time, it'll show you the IP address that you have assigned on that particular device. So go ahead and try and get yourself on the internet right now. Go ahead and hit the little icon right there. Sorry, the little world icon is their web browser, so click on that. And when that comes open, you want to try to surf around on the internet until you get to a page that says, "Hey, authenticate on the BYU network." When you're at home, and you have this device and you plug it into a keyboard and mouse, you'll want to go to the little settings icon there and select your home network, enter in the username and password, and then you should be good forever. The BYU network is actually going to forget you every day, but if you just plug this in at home, once you've authenticated once, it'll remember you forever. So for purposes of our class, you can just plug this in at home, and you'll be able to remote into it from school, and you don't have to necessarily touch it unless you're doing electronics projects. I'm not going to show you this here, but you'll want to play around in this browser, surfing to different sites until you get it to BYU to force you to authenticate on their networks using not the EduRoam, but the other option that's for faculty, students, etc. Okay, here with Chris McLeod, and we are going to do a direct connection between his Raspberry Pi and a PC. So would you mind clicking on your start menu there and going under Preferences and going under Raspberry Pi Configuration. And we're going to go to Interfaces. Over the course of this class, you will want to do SSH, and that's what we're doing now. So click that, and also do VNC. And if you think you're going to be putting on little display screens and stuff like that later on, you could enable the I2C right now. That would be fine. Okay, and that's all we need. So click OK. And it's closed. All right, so now let's just take your Ethernet cable, connect one side to your PC, and connect the other side to your Pi. All right, let's wait, I don't know, 20 seconds or so. In the meantime, would you mind going over to your PC, opening up any terminal window? Command should work, so if you just type in CMD, you should be all right. I'm not sure if it'll have picked it up yet, but just try this. Try ping, and then the space, Raspberry Pi, one word, .local. Okay, so I think it's seeing it right now. So we'll go ahead and hit Control C, and now try Right, SSH space pi, P-I, at raspberrypi.local. Oops. All right, you are going to be successful, we're seeing. So type the word yes, and it's going to ask you for a password now. It should be asking you for a password now. There you go. The default password, if you haven't changed it, is Raspberry.
I set mine up.
Oh, unless, yeah, if you did change it, which
Is
is
it
a
not
good
gonna-
practice. Oh,
Is it not going to show it?
We won't watch his. No, it's not going to ferret it out to the screen. But he is. We're not watching his hands, but he's typing in his password. He hit return, and let's go back to the screen. And he is now in. Sorry for the lighting. He's at the command prompt, and that's it. You are done. You're in. Okay, Chris is on the net, and he's here at school. But what we want him to be able to do is to be able to connect to his Raspberry Pi from anywhere in the world. So right now he's connected to a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse. But we'd like it if he just merely had power to this machine and it was plugged in anywhere in the world, and he could still access it. So obviously it wouldn't be very fun to, for example, bring this to class with a monitor. So the way we're going to do that is just simply create an account with the company VNC. There's already VNC server installed on here if you went through the start menu through the Raspberry Pi configuration and clicked enable VNC. Once you do that, this little icon comes up. So we need to set up a free cloud account for this, and then on our personal computer over here we need to download VNC Viewer. So let us first, well, either one, yeah, go ahead, just type in VNC Viewer.
VNC Viewer.
And download. Something's not happy about your internet connection.
Nope.
Well, it should be,
I wonder if it doesn't like my...
well, okay, we can try another internet path.
Sometimes it doesn't like it when I use the BYU Wi-Fi.
Well, I don't know about this one. This one is the one
All
we're
right,
using.
good enough.
There we go.
So you'll download and install VNC Viewer.
You may want to try one of the many others that are in.
So there are versions available for Mac as well as PC and other platforms.
Whatever.
So, all right, so click OK. It will start installing.
Sign away my life.
Next. Install. Okay, while it's doing that, let us jump over to your other screen if you don't mind. Okay, so click on this little icon up here where it says VNC, and then over here it says connectivity. Sign in to enable cloud connectivity. So that is what we want. Okay, so go ahead and click on that. What it's going to ask you to do is create an account. So it says don't have an account right now. So we open up a web browser. I guess I would just maybe just, if it'll let you, see if it'll let you go onto it. Yeah, just proceed. We know that they're all right. Oh, but first it's asking you to authenticate a little better. So while you're on the BYU campus, you do have to authenticate to get through.
Oh, dude, what do I have to do for this?
Try either one.
Oh, it actually won't let me
Okay,
connect
it
to
won't
that.
let
I
you
already
do that
tried
one.
that
Okay,
one.
so the lower one does work. Okay. He's been authenticated. So now we could maybe go back and click on that link again.
Just close this.
Yeah.
Start over.
Yeah, don't have an account. Now we're in, get started. So you just kind of enter in your email address. It's going to have you go through a couple of pages, but the high level idea is that you're going to create an account with basically your email address and your password. You will log into that account here on this little page that's up, that's in the background right now. Once you create your account here, you will sign into it here, and you will sign into it over here. So he is currently installing VNC Viewer.
Yeah, this is installed, so it's done.
Yeah, this is say got it. And with this thing up, you will say sign in right here. So once you've created your online account, you will sign in here with your email and password. You will sign in over here with your email and password. And once you have done that, you would come back here to VNC, to this VNC viewer, and you would have an icon that represents your Raspberry Pi. You would just click on it, and you will get the full, you will get the full desktop of your Raspberry Pi. So if I come back to here, this desktop that I'm viewing right now, you would see that if you clicked on the icon on your personal computer once you have an account and you've logged in on both sides. And that's it. Okay, so we've used Noobs as a way to install our Raspberry Pis, but Noobs kind of implies for newbies. The way that maybe the more experienced people, or what maybe we might say also the cool kids do it, is that we use the process of flashing our source files over to the micro SD card. So what I did is I went over to Balena Etcher. So you just type in the word Balena Etcher and you can download this program, and when you open it as an executable, it looks like this. I think this only runs on Windows if I recall correctly. Okay, another thing I did is I went over to the downloads portion of Raspberry Pi and I downloaded the Raspbian operating system. And so instead of Noobs, which contains this, this is going to be a little bit more streamlined. I grabbed the image of the software that we're going to be using, so I downloaded that as a zip file. It is now sitting here as this file, so it's about 2.6 gigs. So I open up this executable and I say select an image. So this is where I'm going to be pulling from, and it's this one right here. So I select my source file, which is in my downloads folder. I select open, and then it already knows where I'm supposed to be sending it, and I'm just verifying it's my 16 gig more or less drive. I will click flash, and if all goes according to plan, then in about 10 to 15 minutes I will have a card that is ready to be put into a Raspberry Pi. So it's running right now. It should be done in 10 or 15 minutes. So we can just stop there.